Okay, so Texas was crazy, but it's gonna be a state, so we gotta learn about it. Today we're gonna be talking about the Mexican War, so that's kind of a hint as to what we're getting to here. Before we get into that, I would like to go over yesterday's lesson. Okay, so we're looking at these review questions. Number one, how did Florida become our territory and eventually a state? So it's important to remember that we bought Florida from Spain through the Adams-Onis Treaty. And then Florida would then go on to apply to become a slave state, and it was admitted 6 years later because we wanted to maintain a balance of slave states and free states. So we had to wait for another state to apply as a free state, and that would be Iowa. So Florida has Iowa to thank to becoming a part of the United States. Number two, who is the father of Texas and why? That would be Stephen F. Austin. And he was called the father of Texas because he was the founder of Texas, and he's also kind of the reason that Texas begins to fight for their independence. Three, why didn't Mexico like all Americans moving into Texas? Mexico didn't like all these Americans moving into Texas because eventually the Americans would outnumber the Mexicans living in Texas and therefore try to take over. Number four, describe the Texas Revolution from beginning to end. Okay, so this gives me a roller coaster of emotions. First of all, Stephen F. Austin gets the go-ahead, the land grant for Americans to start moving into Texas. Okay, so we got Americans moving in. Eventually, they, like I've mentioned, outnumber the Mexicans living there. So they start to fight for their independence. They lose at the Alamo. This is a big loss. They lose a lot of guys, around 180 soldiers fighting against an army of thousands. So they don't really have a chance. And Mexico kind of crushes them at the Alamo. However, they don't let this take them down. They more so use the Alamo and the loss that they had there to kind of pump them up for this next battle at San Jacinto, where they actually win by a landslide, really. The whole time the Texans are just running around, remember the Alamo, to pump each other up to keep fighting, and eventually they win. So it works out. At San Jacinto, they actually capture the Mexican leader, Santa Anna. And a lot of people are like, hang him, hang him. And then Sam Houston, this other guy, another city in Texas. Sam Houston comes in and he's like, all right, easy, everybody. And he gives Santa Anna a choice. He says, we'll hang you and you'll die, or you can recognize Texas as an independent republic and we'll let you go free. So what do you think, obviously, Santa Anna's going to do? He's going to say, all right, I'll sign this treaty, I'll sign it, you guys are independent. But keep in mind, Santa Anna is still alive and he's not going anywhere. So, moving right along here, Texas does eventually get their independence, but that guy's kind of looming. Mexico's still pretty upset with what's going on, so keep that in mind. Moving into the end result of the Texas Revolution, Texas becomes an independent called the Lone Star Republic, and they elect Sam Houston to be their president. And they want to become part of the United States, and they would eventually be applying as a slave state. Now, there's two things that worry the U.S., and two reasons why they don't admit Texas right away. Some problems, two worrisome things that could happen. One being that it would be another slave state added, so that would kind of mess up the balance of slave and free states, same issue that Florida had. And then number two, people were really worried about another war with Mexico because, again, their leader's still alive and they are not happy about losing Texas. So that looming, scared feeling of going back to war with Mexico is going to keep U.S. kind of weary of letting them into the states. Before we get into these struggles, just building off of that last question, I want to take a look at this map you guys looked at yesterday. So one of your questions was, what color did Texans think Texas was? And that's going to be all of this, which is what is Texas today, the green and the yellow. That's what they thought they should have. But Santa Anna claimed that Texas was just this yellow piece here. So there's going to be some border disputes, and this is going to kind of lead into some more tension between Mexico and Texas. All right, good. So going back to number 6, what struggles were faced with Florida and Texas? There was a lot of struggles, and the key here is, were they necessary? Was it necessary for them to go through those struggles in order to be successful or to grow? So I'm just going to give you the struggles that they face, and I'll let you kind of decide. It's really up to you. There's no right or wrong answer for that, as long as you back it up with evidence. So some struggles faced were the purchasing Florida through the treaty, and them applying as a slave state, and the problems that caused. Texas winning independence from Mexico, however, lost a lot of people, lost a lot of Americans. There's going to be border disputes, ongoing disputes with Mexico. That's going to lead to a war, and it's also another slave state. So those are some struggles. Again, I'm going to let you decide for yourself what you think. And then finally, leading into today's lesson. So those people that were scared about another war with Mexico, they had every right to be scared, because we do enter a war with Mexico. So today's day 1, learning about that Mexican War. You're going to be able to locate and describe California, because California is going to be important during this war. Locate and predict the impact of the Santa Fe Trail, which is going to be kind of similar to the Oregon Trail. And then 3, predict how events in Texas and California will impact the United States relationship with Mexico. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff coming up here that's going to cause problems between Mexico and the US. So you got a couple images here to talk about California, answer some questions about California. Then you have the Santa Fe Trail picture here, 3 questions on the right, a right pair share, a 3rd document about the annexation of Texas. So finally, Texas becoming a part of the United States. Finally, we agree Texas can join. As you can see here, though, it takes 9 years before Texas becomes a part of the U.S. So pretty interesting stuff there. And then finally, review questions, as always. And so today there is quite a little bit more to do, but you guys will you'll quickly finish that up. And then that is today's lesson. So Mexican War today. We'll also talk about it tomorrow. If you have any questions, let us know.